welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. I cannot believe how large this room is, first and foremost. So quick round of applause. Thank you everybody for joining us today at our annual Healthcare and Life Sciences Industry Forum at Data and AI Summit 2024. When I look back to last year, I think we had about 230 people in the room, and we had amazing speakers. This year, we've got room for about 400, and if you look in the back, standing room only at this point, with more people coming into the room. So really appreciate everybody spending some time with us. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers, and of course, we're going to learn a little bit more about how organizations are helping impact healthcare across the board with data and AI. My name's Adam Crown. I lead industry marketing for healthcare and life sciences here at Databricks, and I'm really excited to MC today's session. So I won't be the center of the show today. I'm just going to help bring up our presenters, who are our esteemed colleagues here in the front row. First and foremost, though, I wanted to make sure we addressed a few key things. We've got some amazing industry sponsors who are making today's session possible. So thank you, Accenture and Avanade. One thing I'd recommend after our show here today, head down to the expo hall. They've got a booth. They'll talk to you about some of the solutions and the impact that they're bringing to the healthcare and life sciences industry at booth 118. So here's our lineup for today. Really excited about this. First and foremost, Michael Sanky, who's our industry go-to-market leader here at Databricks for healthcare and life science, is going to open up with welcoming remarks. We're then going to bring on stage some amazing presenters across the spectrum of healthcare and life sciences. So first and foremost, we're going to hear from Pushpendra Arora, who's the Director of Data Analytics and Solutions for the Human Health Organization at Merck. He's going to be joined by Ed Scura, who's the Principal for Business Information Management at Axtria. And they're going to be talking about the role of data products for AI and Gen AI enablement in the life sciences industry. Then we're going to hear from Cecelia Collins. Cecelia Collins is the Associate Principal for Platform Operations at Integrated Delivery Network Mercy in the United States. She's going to be talking about moving the needle on patient care with a modern data platform. We're then going to turn it over to Sonder Teemer. He's the Global Senior Director for Advanced AI and Insights at GSK. And he's going to be talking a little bit about how they're harnessing the power of AI and digital twins as they think about pharma manufacturing. And then lastly, we'll bring on Corinne Stroum. She's Head of Emerging Technology at Scan Health Plan. What I'm really excited about this talk is she's talking about how data and AI is growing Scan's Insights Hub. So we encourage questions today. We have a packed agenda. I want to make sure you all get that addressed. But we won't take questions throughout our session, so I'd encourage you to save those for the end. And then as we dismiss, there will be an industry networking welcome reception we invite you to on the expo hall floor at the Industry Solutions Hub. Save those questions for then, and you'll have a chance to meet and greet with our esteemed colleagues and speakers. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the stage Mike Sanky. He's our global industry go-to-market leader for healthcare and life sciences here at Databricks. He's going to open us up here today. So round of applause for Mike Sanky. Thank you.
Thank you. So context is critical, and context connects information. So let's imagine we're at a payer. I don't think this will be hard for many people in this room to imagine, and we want to better understand spend and trend for one of our costliest conditions, congestive heart failure. So what's the PMPM of patients with CHF? That's what I'd love to ask. This is our catalog explorer. So if you are a Databricks user, hopefully you've seen this. And what's really cool, which we just released over the last 6 months, is this AI generate feature. So we have large language models that will auto-describe tables and columns within tables for your catalog. This data set here, it's CMS, synthetic claim data. Some people may have explored this data before. So I loaded this data set into Catalog Explorer, did the AI generate, and got these comments. So these are the AI-generated comments without any manual editing. You can, of course, choose to edit and refine these comments. But really, the goal here is just to accelerate the semantic understanding. And again, we talk about context being critical, give you that context for your data. Once we have that in place, once we have that industry-specific semantic context, we're able to translate natural language into a SQL query that can be pushed down to your data warehouse. So this is the SQL query that was automatically generated with the prompt, what is the PMPM of patients with CHF? And then we get our answer. Ultimately, we want text to answer, not just text to SQL. This may be a little low. This data set from CMS is about 10 years old, so there's been inflation in medical spend, but we learned that it's just over $2,000 per member per month for members with congestive heart failure. So data intelligence is all about context. It starts with context. We want to get all of your messy data across all different data modalities and structures into the data intelligence platform where we can instill it with meaning and context. And again, ultimately, we want to get to answers that you care about. We want to be able to populate all these different use cases. And these are different depending on where you sit in the ecosystem. But our goal with data intelligence, you're going to hear an awful lot about it over the next couple of days here, is about creating this context for your data. What else are we doing in terms of investing in data for our industry? We're investing a lot in our ecosystem. So I want to thank all of our ecosystem partners who are in the room. This is a really big part of accelerating data intelligence. We want to make it easier for you to access data from your most critical business applications and systems and unlock it for enterprise analytics and AI. So we've had lots of announcements over the last year in this space, some of the ones that people in this room will care about. On the manufacturing side, Aviva. So think of all your operational technology data. We have a new partnership with them to make it easier to bring that data into the data intelligence platform. And two others here I'll actually double click on, one with TetraScience in the R&D space, and the other with Salesforce on the customer side. So let's talk for a minute about TetraScience and this problem of scientific data. So scientific data is among the world's largest, fastest growing, arguably valuable data sets. It really is the lifeblood of the life sciences industry in terms of creating new drugs. And yet most of these data remain unusable. They're trapped in silos. So if you think of all of the instrument data, for example, in a life sciences organization, typically that is not available in an enterprise data analytics platform. And the reality is raw scientific data, it has zero utility for scientific AI. The goal of our new partnership with TetraScience is to unlock these data for scientific AI to address this gap in data utility by giving these data context and meaning. And ultimately, our goal is to let biopharma companies do what they do best, which is accelerate drug discovery and development. Another example, moving to the other end of the spectrum on the customer side, is with Salesforce. So in September of last year, we announced a strategic partnership with Salesforce to make data and models more accessible between our two platforms. And this week, we're excited to share more on the progress of our zero copy and BYO model capabilities. So if you're interested in these, tune into the Lakehouse Federation session later this week. And then next week, Salesforce will be launching their Life Sciences Cloud as part of their World Tour stop in Boston, and Databricks is proud to be a partner of their new Life Sciences Cloud launch. Joint customers like Amgen already are using Databricks and Salesforce to drive commercial analytics and understanding. And we're excited to take this partnership to the next level to really tackle a lot of these critical challenges that we all are facing around understanding our customers and making sure that we can have that patient 360. The foundation of all of this is delta sharing. So for folks who have been with the Data and AI Summit for some time, this is an open source project. We initially announced it, I believe, 3 years ago at Summit. This is the industry's first open protocol for data sharing. It makes it simple and secure to share data and AI assets across platforms without replication. So when we talk about zero ETL, that's really what we mean. This capability, it extends beyond data to tables and volumes, files, notebooks, AI models to ensure the best possible performance. So the connectivity for many of these business application relationships that we're talking about is actually delta sharing. It's being able to enable you to access that data from the business application system, potentially even without replication, and again, unlock it for enterprise analytics and AI. In addition to this sharing around business applications and peer-to-peer sharing that many of you already are doing, We're also seeing more and more organizations serving licensable data assets and model assets on our marketplace. So Marketplace became generally available at Summit last year, and it's really been incredible to watch the growth of sharing between our ecosystem over the last year. On the model side, for example, we've made a lot of investments to extend Marketplace beyond just data, and John Snow Labs now offers 60 state-of-the-art AI models specifically tuned for the healthcare domain. Another big area of focus for Databricks, and you'll hear a lot about this over the next couple of days, is to make it easier to get started on our platform. Data sharing is one important cornerstone of this effort. If we can make it easier for you to access data from your most critical systems and third-party sources, you can accelerate that time to analytics. We're also partnering with organizations like HealthVerity that are now making sample data available through our marketplace. So the QR code here, if you're interested, it will take you to their marketplace listing. And around this, we've built notebooks, we've built Lakeview dashboards, which you'll also hear more about, and Genie Spaces, which is that natural language interface that I showed you in the PMPM example earlier, to showcase end-to-end workflows. So again, you can go from 0 ETL to answers as quickly as possible. So that's it for me. I just want to say enjoy your week. I hope everyone has a fantastic summit and really is able to go back to their organizations with new inspiration in terms of things you've heard from your peers, as well as things you're going to hear from Databricks over the next couple days now. And we have so many amazing customer and partner presentations in store for you. These are all the customers that are presenting throughout the course of the week. So please make sure you register and attend and have a great time this week. Thank you.
Mike, thanks so much for that opening remarks. Now, let's go ahead and get started. I'm incredibly excited to welcome to the stage two esteemed presenters. They're going to be talking a little bit about data products for AI and Gen AI enablement in the life sciences industry. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Pushpendra Arora, Director for Data Solutions, as well as Ed Scura, Principal from Axtria. Welcome.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. So today we'll talk about how we created a data product ecosystem in Merck. But before I deep dive into that, I am Pushpendra. I lead the data analytics and solutions team for US as well as the international markets within the human health across all the therapeutic areas what we serve. And I've joined with my colleague Ed Scura, and then he'll introduce as well himself.
Good afternoon, I'm Ed Scura, a principal over at Axtria. We focus on commercial and clinical life sciences use cases.
Today we'll talk about what was the business challenge and how we come up with the whole data product ecosystem, which impacts overall analytics and insights generation within the commercial ecosystem. We'll also talk about high level, what's the solution approach and architecture we adopted, and how Databricks accelerated our journey of the data product ecosystem towards the AI and Gen AI, and then what are the different data products we are building to go towards the Gen AI adoption. But before I deep dive, obviously my compliance and legal team has asked me to put this, that all of these views are my personal views and nothing related to the company or the market which we serve today. Before we deep dive, I wanted to talk about if imagine you want to run a marathon, what will you do? You train yourself first, because if you are genetically gifted or very super fit, unless you are out one of the other, you'll train yourself for an enjoyable and successful participation and running the marathon. Similarly, if you are in the business of building the houses or architecting the houses, what you'll do is you'll work with your client to come up with a blueprint based on the lifestyle of the client and the requirement, what he'll give it to you or he or she will give it to you, and then hand it over to a contractor who will build the house. But when it comes to data analytics and insights, we all every day learn something new and experiment something new. We don't have a set pattern which will we always follow. And we too are such representative that we learn every day, and we wanted to share our thoughts that what we are doing in this space for data analytics and insights. In life sciences, as you all know, the data landscape is complex. We have the complex rules, compliance rules, but also having a lot of legacy ecosystem and then legacy systems, legacy infrastructure for external data or the internal data. Based on where the maturity of the organization, some organizations already move towards the cloud, maybe move towards a lake house, data lakes, data warehouses, data marts, to data mesh, data fabric, but every organization in a different journey. But the ecosystem still is very, very complex, where you deal with either multiple different warehouses for internal data, you have the data lakes, you have the operational data store, and you're trying to build on top of that different use cases for serving different needs within the space of your analytics organizations, from omni-channel, next best action, from predictive analytics, from dashboards, reporting, all of that. And for doing all of different use cases, what you do is you start creating and utilizing the data which is there in your raw data lake or data warehouses. Each team start doing their own work, utilizing this data, creating multiple different data pipelines, which is basically duplicative of the work, increases the expenses, increase the overall complexity of the ecosystem, but also having a lot of complex ecosystem with different business rules on the similar data sets. I think Mike talked about the claims data earlier. Claims data is one of the most usable data in the life sciences space when you are working in the commercial space or the real world space. When we started this journey, we interviewed different stakeholders between data science, data visualizations, analytics, commercial analytics, omnichannel analytics, digital analytics. Each one of them were using claims data, applying the similar rules on the same data or different rules in some times, and then having a different results as well, which brings a lot of inconsistencies. What we observe is this increases a lot of duplicative efforts, fragmented pipelines, which increases the overall complexity. And that's where we come up with the whole ecosystem of data product, that how do we create the data products which not just remove all this duplicacy, but increase the efficiency, increase the time to insights for all the work what we do. And there's another survey which has been done by McKinsey that by 2025, the data product will be essential for driving the innovation and then improving the outcome. If a company needs to go towards adopting the Gen AI, how the data product ecosystem can be built so that your Gen AI roadmap would be much, much faster. Another survey shows that a lot of organizations already ahead of the curve for the data product ecosystem implementation. Almost 26% organizations already have a data product ecosystem. Now, data products as a terminology came from data mesh and data fabric architecture. Before that, we all talked about data as the oil, data as the new oil, data as assets, but everybody in the industry now moving from data as an asset to data as a product, that how do we bring data from not the source ways of definition, but from the consumption definition, create those data products by domain and use cases, which serve those use cases by the business definitions. So what was the business problem, and how did we come up with the value proposition for creating those data products? So before we started this data product ecosystem solution, there was a lot of use cases who were doing their own data gathering, their transformations, applying data quality for each of their use cases. Now they're using a lot of similar data sets. There are multiple business rule management across different use cases, cumbersome data processing, different data models or reports, and then long data to insights journey. What we did, we come up with the whole source to task, and how do we source this data, how do we transform this data, how do we apply the business rules, and then create the output for business consumption. What we did is we created the source agnostic framework, which created the data products at a source level as well as at a domain level and then solutions level. We centralized the business rule management at one single place, so any source systems or self-service use cases needs to apply same business rules, they refer to one single repository of business rule, which we call BRMS, which is Business Rule Management System. And then we created the ARDs, which is analytical ready data set at the domain, and then the solutions, which eventually bring us down in terms of how fast we can do the insights journey, which increases the trust because all the data quality at one place, all the business rule is at one place, and obviously reduces the effort to create the analytics use cases. Now, how did we leverage the data product? So we have a source-aligned data product, which is nothing but your data lake, where you have the raw data owned by various domains. Then you add the integrated data products, which is more integration and harmonize, which is probably your data warehouses in the old terminologies. And then you create the consumer data product, which is your analytics-ready data, or a reporting-ready data, or a GenAI-ready data product, which is more domain-centric. And then you bring the solution flavor. Depending on what kind of solution you support, you create different data products. And I'll add, Ed will add more in terms of what are these data products, and then what are the different solution architecture, and deep dive into the solution architecture of those data products.
Thanks, Pushpendra. So the key to our program success revolved around the analytics-ready data product. As Pushpendra mentioned, the organization had a lot of insights teams building their models, pre-engineering it, doing their own rules, and creating a lot of duplicity in the environment. Dozens and dozens of these teams, all in their separate silos. So by creating these analytical-ready data products, we took all those rules, domain by domain. We created lots of data types to embed everything and really unleash these teams to focus on what they're meant to do, is to build their models and reveal insights. These analytical-ready data products, if you think of our patient domain, we had a digital, customer, a series of domains, and commercial. But in the patient domain, claims is a key area where we created claims ARDs that gave us things like tumor types, line of therapy, regimen by patient counts, so that all teams, regardless of what use case or insights they were going after, leveraged everything from a consistent baseline for the organization, enabling business users to get a consistent view across all the reports and analytics that they receive. The other data products are pretty straightforward. Reporting-ready data products, transformed, some temporal features, some pivoting that made it easy for visual consumption. And what we're working on now is generative-ready data products, where we combine the unstructured data with the structured data and commercial to start to enable some co-pilot features, which we'll talk about in a little while. So the architecture that drives this, as we talked about, comes from the existing investments that the organization has made, the hubs, the lakes, the warehouses. We layered our product structure on top of that, the integrated data products, domain, and on. All this, the foundation was enabled by a series of common capabilities, Databricks obviously being one of them. So that every data product we build is built with the same frameworks, techniques for consistency. So data quality, for example, each data product had data quality rules built in as part of the product, not just the pipelines and tables, but the rules became part of the deployable package. Enabling catalog and lineage with the out-of-the-box capabilities of Databricks, as well as things like business rules repository, where some of those key line of therapy and tumor type rules, we can embed them in a content store, so not just the data product community could leverage them, but also the insights and use cases could leverage them and create reusability for the landscape. So how this helps some key use cases in the top right there, you'll see data science use cases. Key areas like market mix was a challenge to scale globally, right? The commercial data landscape is diverse. Dealing with that unsettled ground and creating a common market mix on top of that was a challenge. So by putting these domain data products and solution data products underneath, the organization is able to scale these types of use cases more effectively. There's a series of other use cases, Omni, commercial, and Gen AI.
So by adopting this data product, the approach was that how do we overall simplify the commercial ecosystem and then bring the speed to insights with the quality, because the trust was the very, very key factor for all these stakeholders. there was lack of trust when they were directly consuming the data from data warehouses or data lake by doing this, their own data wrangling and data preparation, because every analyst was doing on their own data preparation. And then when it goes to data science, they always have those questions that, is this a trustable data? By putting the framework around it, now they have the data quality reports on their hand, which they can directly consume out of the box. Self-service is another big capability which we wanted to enable. We put the data labs on top of all of these data products, which is nothing but you can consume each of these data product, add your or bring your own data along with that, and then add it on top of it. So if you're part of a commercial analytics or a brand analytics team, and you wanted to do some analytics and then consume some or build some reports for your brand team, you can consume these data products which already have the features built in, and then do your own analytics on top of it. Have the business rule at one single place was another big factor by putting together the whole BRMS ecosystem. Operationalizing and streamlining the overall the data operation cost. But before even the cost, it's just a simplification of the data ops, now reducing the multiple different threads for the data ops. And as Ed talked about, the centralization of data catalog, lineage, and the governance with the Unity catalog. But we also wanted to do some of the tangible outcome. We wanted to measure with this program that how this program is going to enhance the overall commercial ecosystem for the data, and then how it will help us also do a lot of new launches, and then bring the similarity from what we have done, and then learn from that, and then apply to those new launches as well. So what we wanted to measure with a couple of parameters in terms of how are we reducing the data preparation time, how are we minimizing overall business rules duplications, how are we accelerating the analytics use cases, increasing the trust in the data by applying data quality and having a one single data quality ecosystem, and then data quality dashboards for end-to-end data quality, operational cost saving, as well as I talked about, how are we launching all of the new assets. What we just didn't do build this data products, we also launched this data products with the consumer team. So we bring along the data science team and the analytics team together, and then we launch this data product with them. So we wanted to hear from them the feedback of these data products, the way we are building it. So each of these domain-driven data product has been driven by what kind of features should be added on those data products by those teams.
So it's quite a bit of impact for the business. And Databricks has helped us along the way to achieve that. So we just brought up a couple key points of how Databricks enabled our journey. And the journey is quite unique. At our firm, we've done a few programs similar to this, and the acceleration and time to value that we achieved in this case has just been amazing. The key focus value is we created a unified data plane. So having all these data products built in multiple teams with multiple stakeholders, all on a common plane, where both SQL-based users, workbook users can all interact with the data with the same copy of data. You heard a little bit about the landscape, where there's a lot of federated, a lot of silos with dozens and dozens of teams having to take a copy of that data and then bring it into their own little local area. All that has been reduced. The second area where Databricks has enabled us is the out-of-the-box capabilities. Unity, Catalog, Delta, Lineage, to name a few. And the third one's a bit of an unsung kind of value prop that I always put in, is that with large programs, a lot of the challenges when you have so many stakeholders, so much build happening, so much consumption happening, is that you often run into contention in terms of what can get accomplished at once, and somebody's got to wait for some data to be refreshed, or someone's doesn't want the data to change because they're still testing. But with the features of Databricks of cloning and sharing, we unleash parallelism, enabling these teams to multi-thread and get their jobs done in an accelerated way. And fourth, of course, SLAs in terms of data delivery. Claims data is the largest set that often is dealt with in commercial. We were able to bring processing times from a few days down to a half day. So on the last part we'd like to leave with you is kind of where we are on our journey and enabling the next step for generative ready data sets. So what you're seeing in front is a picture of a RAG framework we're starting to enable. Where at the center, we have our GRD. We have our structured data as well as unstructured data to start to enable use cases for Gen AI apps for commercial. Think of questions that a rep would ask, a headquarters user would ask, a marketing executive would ask, that requires both the structured data of some marketing assets and collateral, as well as the performance of a brand, TRX, NRX, call activity, et cetera. So being able to create a framework that enables that interactivity and minimizes things like dashboards and other things to accelerate the commercial teams. This is the next leg of our journey that we're excited to be a part of. So in summary, the next slide kind of depicts our journey to date. So we started with the existing foundational layer within the organization. We built upon it what we call analytical ready data sets and reporting ready data sets. And now we're in this next leg of our journey to enable Gen AI. So on behalf of Pushpendra and myself, thank you. We're quite proud of this project. There's a lot of Merck team members here in the audience that are also quite proud of this project. We feel like we've elevated the game at Merck in commercial analytics, and happy to share it with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ed, thank you. Appreciate it. Pushpendra, thank you so much. Appreciate that. What I loved about this talk here is when we think about the role of generative AI, when we think about the impact of data, good models require good data. So how do you make all of that happen and enable things like the GRD products, data products that this team was talking about? It all starts with unifying all of that data in a single platform. Securing and governing it, they talked a little bit about data governance, infusing it with intelligence by bringing together both the data as well as the technology, but also the domain expertise, and then sharing it across the ecosystem. For this organization, it's internally. How do we get to market faster? How do we realize those business insights? I thought that was very, very great. So thank you so much for sharing that story. Now, the center of today and really this week is all about data intelligence. How do we put intelligence into the hands of everybody from clinicians to staff so that they can take better care of patients? So I'd love to welcome to the stage Cecelia Collins. Cecelia Collins is the Associate Principal for Platform Solutions at Mercy. She's going to be talking a little bit about how they're moving the needle for patient care on a modern data platform at Mercy. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Cecelia to the stage. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam, for the introduction and for all of your excellent support with the preparations for this event. Before I get started, I want to also quickly acknowledge 3 of my Mercy data science team colleagues, Nicole Perez, Chelsea West, and Sasi Rajasuriya. It's really their team's work that I'll be talking about in the second half of this presentation, and I just want to acknowledge their contributions. So I'm going to give a very quick overview of the company, quick overview of the mission, vision, and then our current footprint. Then I'll go into some highlights of our data modernization strategy. And finally, I'll focus on 3 examples that demonstrate how strategic plan changes enabled the use of AI to personalize the patient experience, increase collaboration across teams, and streamline operations to improve outcomes. Mercy, if you're not familiar with us, it was founded back in 1827 when Catherine Macaulay opened the first care center in Dublin, Ireland. The Sisters of Mercy was founded a few years after that in 1831. And Catherine Macaulay was extremely independent. She challenged long-held beliefs at the time about what was proper for religious women, and took the initiative to petition the Vatican so that the nuns could leave the convent and go out into the streets and care for people in their homes and communities. And the company is very proud of this legacy of challenging norms and taking a different approach. And that's reflected in the mission statement, which emphasizes compassionate care and exceptional service, also makes the connection back to the Catholic faith. The vision is still about pioneering a new model of care and promises to deliver a transformative health experience. The values of dignity, excellence, justice, service, and perhaps most importantly now, stewardship, also reflect that legacy. 200 years, almost 200 years later, Mercy's grown to be one of the 20 largest US health systems with more than 45 hospitals, 4,700 providers, and 45,000 employees. So with a mission-based and faith-based company that size, how do you stay true to mission and vision statements that promise a better experience for all when you have increasingly elevated cost of care, you have narrow profit margins, this constant demand to do more with less? If you're going to meet system challenges of increasing security risks, increasing regulations, increasing clinician burnout, you have to be a very good steward of your finite resources. And along with financials and human resources, it's everybody knows it's data more than ever now. And that can be a question of life or death for the mission if you're not taking care of it. So how do you do that? It helps if you treat your data platforms like a patient. And make sure that that patient is as fit as an athlete that's ready to compete in the AI race. 5 years ago, Mercy's data platforms were not fit at all. They had a lot of metaphorical comorbidities, including low interoperability, high effort, multiple instances of systems of record. We had 3 separate instances of Epic, a lot of underutilization of functionality, complex and non-standard data flows, a lag in data flows that made it really difficult to take advantage of real-time needs. A lot of room for improvement in automation and data quality enforcement, and of course, a lot of missed opportunities for ML and AI. So you cannot really do AI on a platform like this. It's like trying to get a very sick patient to run a super fast marathon. To add on to Pushpendra's metaphor, it's extremely difficult to do. So leadership worked with a group of architects and consultants and came up with a 5-year strategic plan called Strategy 2025. You can think of this as a training or a health plan for this sick patient with all the comorbidities that it had. And the extensive care team of architects and analysts and data scientists and infrastructure people and leadership themselves and so many more had to execute against this 5-year plan with a minor thing called a pandemic happening in the middle of it. And they had to achieve, in order to really enable AI, they had to hit more than 15 milestones in the areas of technology, architecture, data and analytics, and infrastructure and operations. Just to call out a few, was the single instance migration, and then also the Azure Cloud platform build. And on top of that, the establishment of what we call our Intelligent Data Platform, or IDP for short. This is our centralized data lakehouse, which has Azure Databricks on Unity Catalog, of course, along with a collection of other Azure resources. So I'm going to focus on that piece since that's what the data science team uses now as the primary resource for building out their models. All of these initiatives were necessary. A lot of them took well over a year, hundreds of hours, multiple phases of project management to complete, and they all had to have their own internal branding strategy. When you're trying to do transformation at scale like this, you really have to manage the expectations and the communication around the new technology and the culture change and the process change that comes with it. So this is an example. This is a slide from a few years ago. This is what leadership used to launch the intelligent data platform. So the name works nicely now with the Databricks data intelligence platform. It's kind of a fun thing to say together, but we didn't copy Databricks there. Just we had the intelligent data platform before Databricks rebranded. So in case anyone's wondering, but anyway, this slide was used to announce the vision for this platform, which is really to connect people and process and technology at a much faster scale needed to support the mission in the digital age. This reference architecture gives just an idea of how complex the layers are. All of these pieces, data strategy, data governance, data architecture, security, operations, monitoring, these are all like so many systems that continuously have to be maintained in order to have a really fit platform patient, if you will, that's able to compete. So as with any big transformation, it takes time, and eventually, as long as you're diligent and keep working through it and you execute against your training plan, you start to see some big transformations. And that's what we've seen in the past year, 1 to 1.5 years with our data science team. They previously were working with a lot of disparate systems. We do have a couple of Databricks icons on the slide. So that was really before we were on Unity Catalog and had it completely tied into other Azure components, but they were really limited. They were doing what they call modeling as objects, meaning just publishing artifacts to individual artifacts to a system, and it's very difficult to it's difficult to get things to production in the first place. Once you have them there, it's very difficult to update them or make any changes. It just wasn't. It's a really difficult approach if you're trying to use models in a clinical setting. So what Databricks on Unity Catalog has allowed for, along with the other components that we've connected it to, like Event Hubs, Azure DevOps, the ADLS storage, Azure Data Factory, et cetera, is a modeling as code approach. So this is a lot more streamlined. It allows a lot more flexibility. It allows the team to work in a much more agile manner, and it allows them to go to production much faster. So this is key. I was in machine learning deployment training this morning, and the instructor shared a quote from Gartner about how 54% of modeling efforts never make it to production. A big reason for that is not having a platform that allows teams to do it in a streamlined, collaborative, efficient way. So it's really been a joy to see the data science team start using this platform and start leveraging AI to make a big difference. The current production state is 14 models. The team is able to put models into production at the rate of, I think, every other month. 2 of these are GPT Gen I apps. The first one that went to production is called Joy. It's just a benefits chatbot. And the second one is the ED to inpatient handoff model, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. They're also adding a lot more feature stores now. If you're not familiar with feature stores, or it really cuts down on a lot of the redundant code. So again, makes their work a lot more efficient, makes the models more consistent. So the overall quality is better as well. So let's talk about 3 of these models and what they accomplish with them. The first one that I'm highlighting is called the nursing ED to inpatient handoff. This leverages generative AI in real time to create a handoff document that enhances the efficiency and the accuracy of the handoff between the nursing staff in the emergency department and the nursing staff in the inpatient units. The approach was to use GPT-4. It reads the ED notes and some other discrete data in real time and creates a shortened version of those notes for the inpatient nurses, who automatically receive that summary through they receive an automatic notification, can be read on their Zebra mobile devices, and it's in a standardized SBAR format, so it's easy to consume because it's standardized and also integrates back into the patient chart. And this was done with a multidisciplinary team of data scientists, the bedside nurses, the nursing informaticists, the Epic team, and that's critical. If you want your AI projects to be successful in a clinical setting, it's extremely important to involve the people whose problem you're trying to solve, because otherwise, everybody knows there's a lot of fear about jobs being replaced, et cetera. And our nursing leadership talks about this model in a Becker's healthcare article that was also just published and calls that out as well. One of the things to understand about these projects, again, if your platform isn't really fit and in good shape, you'll have a lot of problems no matter what. So if you don't have a platform that makes things a little bit easier for you, or another way to look at it is if the platform is adding to the problems, that just makes it so much harder to get it to production. This project had all kinds of data issues. They had challenges with figuring out how to do the prompting. They had challenges with, they had to do a lot of calculation around the tokens used and the tokens available. There were different, I guess GPT-4 expanded the context window, but then there were limitations on the Epic side with the number of characters that could be used. They they also had to figure out how to handle incomplete notes. They had to get the Epic team to create a separate interface for handling those notes. And then there were other things that they had to filter out, like hospitalist, how to do a procedure type notes. So again, these modeling projects and AI, you're always going to have some challenges. So it's really key to have a platform that makes everything else easier. If you're trying to get through a training plan and every day you'll have a million little excuses about why you don't want to get on your bike and go for a ride or get on the treadmill and do some run that you don't feel like doing. So the platform really needs to not add to that or give you any excuses. Okay. Seems like my clicker's not working. Not sure what's up. I don't know if I was pressing. Oh. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the benefits for this project were it really improved the overall time efficiency, reduced the amount of time that had to be spent in the chart review, the technology enablement of rapidly and frequently reviewing the charts, decreased cognitive load, and also reduced things like phone calls that had to be made across teams. It really improves the patient throughput because it notifies the inpatient nurses that they need to prepare for an admission, reassures the ED nurses that the communications happened, and then the patient benefits of just having better coordinated care, a reduction in medical errors, and an overall a better experience for the patients and the nurses. Another note about the platform is that this project just went to pilot only 2 months ago. So it was live at one location, and in the course of 2 months, they've been able to scale up to 30 locations. So this is now, in just 2 months' time, they've been able to have it go live and be used in almost 30 emergency departments. The cancer registry, this is the goal for this one was to predict a daily list of patients that are highly probable cancer cases. State and federal laws require Mercy to maintain state cancer registries. So the goal was to eliminate a lot of that manual effort. They used to be called cancer registrars, now they're called oncology data specialists. And the goal was to reduce the manual part of their workload as much as possible. This is a Python scripted rule-based NLP binary classification model. It scans the text from all kinds of procedure reports and then uses the NLP regex expressions to come up with a probability score. And this is more of a batch processing model. The output is accessed through a Power BI report. It includes the probability score for the data specialist to review, and then also gives them the list of terms that were used to come up with that score. So it has the validation built into it. And their daily work has been reduced by almost 300%. So from 8 hours down to 1 or 2 hours. This was not as much of a multidisciplinary team effort, but the data scientists did have to work extensively with the with the oncology data specialists to make sure that they had the rules correct and to come up with those. Benefits of this, obviously, a big improvement in time efficiency, also technology enabled. The cancer registries are a source for a lot of research, so having the data entered faster and having it be more accurate in turn makes that research better too. So there are public benefits as well. It also improves the company's compliance with those state and federal regulations. Finally, the Chen chemotherapy model. This is related to the CMS. I'm sure everybody remembers that was one of the acronyms that Mike had in the game. The OP35 measure, the purpose of that measure is to identify patients who have had an outpatient chemotherapy encounter who are at high risk for inpatient admissions, and to reduce the number of those inpatient admissions and their ED visits, and to hopefully improve the quality of their lives. The approach for this one is an H2O model trained using PySparkling's H2O AutoML framework. And the current model is a gradient boosting model. The product is a smart texting app that prompts patients to rate their condition based on multiple criteria, so pain, nausea, vomiting, etc. Their results are integrated back into Epic, and the scores, if the scores exceed a threshold, then they're automatically contacted by a nurse or provider. And the results will eventually be used to build a timeline of symptoms so that the providers can better manage those symptoms. So for example, they'll know, your pain was a level 2 on day 1, but by day 3, it's increased to level 5. Oops. I didn't mean to go back yet. So the team, this one is named after the late Zhaijing Chen. She was a member of the data science team, and her work was completed by a multidisciplinary team of data scientists and data engineers, architects, and leadership from Mercy Research and operations, and finally the Epic team. So nobody expects to be a patient, but in this business of life sciences, we're all going to be on that end of the service at some point in time. So we all have a vested interest in making sure the systems work better, right? The benefits of this are significant. It's actually won 2 Innovator of the Year awards from the CMS. It improves time efficiency again. It's technology enabled, better patient throughput, better coordinated care by automatically reviewing those symptoms, and improving the enhancement, enhancing the awareness of symptoms over time, and improving the pain management and overall experience. If you want to read more about Zhaijing and her work, there are a couple of articles on the mercy.net public-facing website where you can find out about her history, and it's really very inspirational. So what is the ambition state now? The data science team is focused on ML ops finally, and monitoring and fine-tuning. They're taking advantage of Lakehouse monitoring and their own custom dashboards. They're able to do things like detect data leakage and make corrections so that their models will be more accurate. They want to increase the feature store and also start adding a function store. And they're experimenting with the Databricks hosted models as well. At a department and enterprise level, strategy 20 30 is in progress. It's not been officially published, but we do know that the main goal is to move from a platform as infrastructure to more as a platform as an operating model. And finally, the Mercy Clinic, the Mayo Clinic Platform Connect is a big initiative that Mercy's doing with Mayo Clinic, and now I think the total members are up to 6 to 8 different hospitals around the globe. This is a research platform that will allow the use of AI to do a host of things around population health and all kinds of research initiatives. So there's more information about that as well on the mercy.net site. So thank you for your time. I hope that some of this information is helpful. Thank you.
Cecelia, thank you so much. I think what's so important is healthcare is incredibly personal, right? That's why we're all here. That's why we've been so tied into this industry. As somebody who has family members who are patients at Mercy Hospital, it's amazing to see that technology in use. All right, so without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the stage our next speaker, Sonder Timmer. He's the Senior Director for AI and Decision Sciences at GSK. He's going to talk us through how harnessing the power of AI and digital twins in pharma manufacturing. So without further ado, take it away.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm actually one of the few people that know what OTIF is, it seems. That's kind of my key KPI that I work on daily. So maybe first a tiny introduction. Who is GSK? GSK is a top 10 pharmaceutical company, 37 sites around the planet, doing a lot of vaccines work, normal drugs, medicine, and HIV, reaching 1.4 billion patients each year today, and have an ambition to reach 2.5 billion patients by 2031. So we are really in the big business of providing medicine to a lot of people, and especially our vaccine products in key markets in Europe hit almost every kid in key nations. So one of the things I wanted to highlight first is that it's actually very complex, right? This is it's hard to manufacture drugs, it's hard to make vaccines because it's a multi-step process, often involving multiple sites. First, you have the primary manufacturing. This is where we make the bulk, where we make the heaviness of the drug, often or the antigen if you make a vaccine. To later then go to a secondary site where we actually process it to fill it into syringes or into drugs or packaging or devices and package them correctly and ship them to where the patients are. But it's very complex and it's actually very data rich, this ecosystem. And what we're trying to do in my team is building a lot of digital twins around it, focusing on things like yield. So can we actually make the process more efficient so we get more output from the same amount of raw material? Especially important for some of our drugs or medicines that are under constrained conditions. So there's actually more patient need than we can supply for. We also try to work on things like flow. For some of our medicine, it maybe takes up to 200 days to produce a batch. And we're trying to see if we can use digital twin technology to cut that down, right? So can we be more predictive? Can we plan things smarter? Can we actually get more out of our manufacturing sites without hurting any quality metrics, of course? So digital twins, right? For people that don't know, it's actually the coming together of three major things. So first you have sensor technology. So it's really about having the right type of sensors, IoT sensors, on the process to measure what's going on. The second is like what we call the brain. So it's the machine learning models that will help you to actually predict what's going on next and actually predict what actions maybe need to be taken. And the last one is actually control systems. Can also be humans. Some of our digital twins have humans in the loop. But of course, in the future stage, you want to have automated decision making, right? So you sense what's going on in your process, you predict what's going to happen next, predict actions, take corrections, and have a full loop. Now, this is not that easy, so we have actually looked into a maturity model. For left to right, first phase is what we call a digital model. This is where we just take a static data set, try to do some modeling, and often just doing that, we can raise things like yield by 5%, right? By just having a better understanding of how the process is going and what metrics or what settings we might need to change, we can boost the performance. The second one, and I think my layout is totally broken, is actually digital shadows. So this is where you start automating the data flow from the physical object or the physical process to the cloud or the place where you do the intelligence. So you actually start having real-time machine learning. But you still don't make the actual control in an automated way. So you probably have a dashboard telling operators what's going on and what maybe they should be doing. Then in the final state, which is what we call a real digital twin, that's where you actually start automating the decision making. So you would actually use the machine learning to steer the control of the loop. So, and this is in the maturity model, you can see it's all about automating the flow of data and the flow of intelligence at the end. So to bring it to an example, I thought I'd do a very simple one to talk about, which is yield. And it's actually just trying to create more out of a process, right? So if you can think about, you have a bioreactor. In your bioreactor, you put the original cells and you put nutrients. You grow them for X days and you get antigens, right? It's a very simple process. It's like beer brewing, but you try to get antigens to put in your product. This is, of course, not that easy because you have a lot of sources of variability, right? There's differences in raw materials. Something can change, temperature can change. Sometimes the cells are not that happy. So the process variability in some of our products is kind of high, right? And there's a lot of variability. Then the other one, you have controllable factors, right? So in essence, because you have cells, you have a feeding program. So when you give them the food, or when you change the temperature, or when you flush them, when you stop the process, these things you can control, right? So all these three things together create that we have batch-to-batch variability in yield and that we've tried to stop. So this is an example of actually a digital twin that we built 3-4 years back. So it's one of the first digital twins that we made. And we run here an experimental batch where hopefully the slide works with me, where we actually show what happens if you have the digital twin on and when you have the digital twin off. So how you read the slide is the top part is the quality target. That's where we actually have to have the liposome size needs to stay in a certain boundary for us to not reject the batch. Then we have the temperature. We know that the temperature is a major influence of how well the batch will work or how well the product end quality will be. And then we have the 2 flow rates. We can actually throw a bit with the flow to change the temperatures or to influence the temperatures. So if you start it and you have everything on a steady state, you start with actually a nice, good quality. Everything is happy. Then we start doing the preparation and you start seeing, and actually it goes a bit fast now. You start seeing that when the preparation happens, the temperature drops and actually the quality starts moving a bit. And because of that, the control flows start acting, right? So you start seeing that the control flows start changing to make sure that the temperature that actually starts peaking comes down back to the middle. Now, if you would have done the same, but you actually don't have a digital twin, what you will see is that because when you do the preparation, the temperature drops, the quality drops because there's no flow control, and actually you end up with a rejected batch because the quality of your product is very poor, right? So the impact of having a digital twin in this kind of scenarios is very big. Well, I thought I'd go to a technical conference, so let me also add one of the architecture slides. The main reason is to show that for us it's very complex, right? We don't just deal with cloud. Cloud is actually in the bottom corner here, what we call TwinOps. It's a digital twin platform, heavily based on the Azure cloud and Databricks, where we actually build the twins, where we train them, control them, package them, and push them out. Then on top of that, we have what we call the streaming platform. In our case, it's a Kafka-based platform, where we actually do the real-time decision making. This is actually often running in the factory sites, right? So this is running in one of our 37 sites. So that's actually on-prem or on the edge. And then we have the last bit, which is the automation layer. This is actually where the real engineering happens, where you have the sensors and the control systems, right? So for us to make a digital twin go in production, we have to actually really think about all these 3 different steps working nicely together. And also really thinking about how we control things, right? So when the previous talk was also talking about MLOps, it's a major issue for us as well, because the moment we push a model to the edge, it's much harder for us to track what it's doing because there's an internet firewall with the cloud. The other thing I wanted to show is a bit how we're looking at generative AI and what we do to make our digital twins more useful for people. So the first scenario is actually when we are having issues. We want to understand what went wrong, right? So we know something went wrong, there is a digital twin. potentially in place. And in the old state or in the current state, what it would mean that we have to get a whole team together of engineering, MSAT, scientists, tech people to actually understand what data do we need, what analysis do we need to run to actually understand what went wrong and how to fix it. In a future state, and we have some examples of that, we actually have built sort of a co-pilot that does lots of these steps in an automated way. So now the process owner can actually prompt questions about the state of the digital twin, can ask it to look at what's wrong and even do some simple ML modeling at the same place. So you can actually now go from days to hours to understand what went wrong. So to put it in perspective, it's a bit of a flow how things can work. This is one of our vaccines digital twins. And now actually the owner can actually just prompt it, right? So for example, he saw that something went wrong in the process very well. Can you actually show me the yield simulations? And you start seeing that he generates a plot saying what is the current yield and where it actually is going. And as you can see on the plot, it's going down. The operator then sees this missing value, so maybe some sensor issues. So actually ask it to fill it. So it runs an ML pipeline on the back end to impute the missing values. Then the operator is asking it for, okay, I think there's maybe some sensor issues. Can you actually run an AutoML pipeline that does some feature importance testing to see which sensor it might be, kicks off a whole AutoML pipeline, runs feature importance, and reports back what kind of, what he thinks the deviation feature is that maybe has driven the deviation of the current patch. So in essence, we can now very quickly, through just prompting, understand what's going on and do some basic analysis. And this is something we're trying to build out as more and more capabilities and more and more of our processes. The other one that I want to talk about is data quantity. So because we do manufacturing, it's sometimes not that easy to get enough data because we don't always run that many batches of certain products a year. Some of our products, we only make 10 batches a year. So actually we have small data. You have only 10 rows of data, and it will take very long before you have enough data to make a machine learning model. So we've been looking into synthetic data to actually fix missing data, but also just generate synthetic data on one of our processes. So just to show, there's actually some examples. So Cosine is a generative network that we're working on. And you can see that you have real data. So we took 3 data points or three different batches and how the feature looks like. So you can actually see for each of the features that we then can generate a lot of new batches that are somewhat similar. So as you can see, for some sensors or for some data sets, it goes rather well. Like for example, the do out, we can generate rather well the synthetic batches or the synthetic data points. For the seal press, you can see the model still struggles a bit, right? So we're getting there, not perfect yet. But the impact of it is already really big, right? So this is one of our key products that we have, where we actually have not that many batch data yet, and we struggle to make a digital twin. So we only have 140 rows of data, and we started bringing in more and more synthetic data to see what the impact might be. So as you can see on the graph, we start blending in more and more synthetic data and start seeing what is the performance of our machine learning model. So as you can see, when we start with non-synthetic data, our performance is it's like an R2 score 0.2 or something. It's really, really poor machine learning model, should not go into production. And as we start adding more and more synthetic data, at this point we've run it to like 3,000 batches, we start kind of doubling the performance, right? So it's a 0.4 R2 square model. Still not a good model, still not great, lots of things to happen. But we already start seeing, by starting to blend in more and more synthetic data, we actually are able to boost our performance. And with that, thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sander. We appreciate that. All right, without further ado, we have one more presenter I'd like to welcome up to the stage. Corinne Stroum. She's the head of emerging technologies at Scan Health Plan. She's going to be talking about how they're growing Scan's Insights Hub with data intelligence. So Corinne, without further ado, take it away.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, congratulations on making it this far. This has been a lot of talking. I am the last speaker between you and reception for health and life sciences, your dinner plans, your parties, what have you. So I'd first like to introduce Scan Health Plan. It's not familiar to a lot of folks. As someone living in the Pacific Northwest, it was new to me as well. Scan Health Plan is nearly 50 years old. It is a Medicare Advantage plan that was founded by senior activists for seniors. They were fed up with the state of care in aging and wanted to do better. It has grown and diversified in the years since then. We have nearly 300,000 members. We have expanded dramatically beyond California. And these have actually been problems when you think about the models that we've had to build and the technologies that we're bringing forth. One thing I want to note is we've also diversified. We are no longer just a health plan. Although we continue to evangelize our personalized products, we've also developed a lot of care delivery organizations. So to name a few, Embrace, Welcome Health, Healthcare in Action, My Place. All of these go to show that we have a unique set of problems because our data set is not just claims data anymore. And so when I show you the roadmap of what we'll be talking about today, one thing that's missing is a buzzword slide, which is our architecture. So like Mike, I'm not going to run you through our architecture because it will be everything that you've seen in the slides to date today. Medallion architecture, data lakes or blob storage. We're going to have a feature store. We use ML flow. We use the Databricks workflows as our pipelines. Nothing there is surprising. So there's no secret sauce about the way we've achieved this. Where I want your attention to go is what we've been able to achieve, how we tackle or overcome the challenges that we've come across, and how what you're hearing from me should also align with what you've heard in earlier sessions today. Let me take you back to 2022. I'm going to introduce you to a fictionalized member. Her name is Josephina. She's 76 years old, and she lives at home. She struggles with advanced chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, COPD, could have been on the slide. She also has some limitations with her activities of daily living. She isn't as mobile as she would like to be, and she could use some additional help. She's also what we call a dual enrollee. She is on Medicare and Medicaid. She is a low-income senior. This is actually a very common scenario. Members like Josephina typically receive a health risk assessment at least once a year. That's the mandated minimum, once a year. And that health risk assessment, or HRA, can unlock a number of additional benefits, but it relies on rules. So if you answer the questions in a very specific way, you will get additional benefits. But if you were unable to answer the questions to trigger the rules, you're going to wait until next year. And if your mobility changes in the year, you're waiting again for that assessment to come forth to get those additional benefits. We built a predictive model that looks for members like Josephina so that if their needs evolve over the course of the year, if they or their family members did not answer the questions in the health risk assessment to get those services, that will actually be triggered by the model. This model is called Nursing Facility Level of Care, or NFLOC. This model has changed people's lives because it allows for nursing quality in the home. Our mission is to keep seniors healthy and independent. We can bring nursing quality care into the home to help members like Josephina with their activities of daily living and ongoing chronic condition maintenance and monitoring. Nearly 100 members like Josephina have actually been identified and engaged through this model. And again, that doesn't seem like a lot, but when it fundamentally changes your life, it is a lot. So on the other side, we don't just serve our members with some of the work on our platform, we serve our employees as well. I constantly refer to our contact center employees, our member services advocates, as our superheroes. They are walking, talking encyclopedias. They know about all of our benefits, all of the states that we work in, all of our diversified care delivery entities, and they will be able to go from call to call answering questions about each one of those products, those services, those needs. It's stunning. This is a very high attrition, high burnout job. It's a fundamental workforce management issue. We just this month, actually in May, we rolled out a Gen AI solution to augment our member services advocates. And so I know earlier someone made mention of eliminating jobs through AI. What I love about this use case is that this is the exact opposite. This is not Klarna laying off customer service employees to replace with chatbots. This is us using the chatbots to bolster our customer services agents. What we do is we have real-time transcription, not unlike what's going on the bottom of the screen here, and I'm terrified of saying something that gets transcribed incorrectly, but those transcripts trigger talking points, generative talking points that are mining the knowledge base that we offer to our MSAs so that as they're having an organic conversation with the member, it's just suggesting which articles to read or which talking points to trigger. I'm really excited about this use case. I wish I had it in many more parts of my life. I want to take you a little bit on a journey. And as I was putting these slides together, I was asking my husband, well, 2017, it feels like a lifetime ago. So the only anchor I could come up with was this. In 2017, fidget spinners had their moment. So if you can think about where you were when you first saw a fidget spinner, that's where Scan was when it started to envision the Insights Hub. I know, it's kind of a weird comparison. He didn't want me to include that. So we realized that we had kind of maxed out our on-prem SQL warehouse. Batch jobs were taking the whole night to run. We were getting files in on SFTPs or other file transfer mechanisms. They'd drop it in a folder. There are still some places where people were downloading files once a week. So it wasn't a great way of managing our data. We knew our EDW had reached its limits, but we also, if you about 2 hours ago went to the Percept Health session, Harish made a really interesting observation. When you move to the cloud, you also get the chance to adopt Gen AI, machine learning, a bunch of other benefits. You get to leapfrog forward because in many places in healthcare, you are that far behind. So when we realized we could make a move to advanced analytics by virtue of exploring the cloud, we spun up a work group called the Analytics Leadership Committee, and we looked around the organization for needs. Where could we address your needs with advanced analytics? We scored all of the use cases and we built a roadmap. We also realized that where we had been dabbling in machine learning in the organization really needed a leg up. It was a lot of rogue data scientists who probably didn't even have the title of data science. They were working in a Jupyter notebook, and if they left the organization, heaven help us all, because we didn't have SharePoint online and we don't know where those documents went. Those Python codes were gone. So imagine now we see this opportunity to strengthen our engineering rigor by moving to the cloud, to scale, and to build out better models. So this is how it played out. Concurrently with some of this work, I am including some other things that we do in the emerging technology realm. We have explored with virtual reality, as many do. What I like about this is actually for, it's like a cognitive behavioral training. This allows you to experience the cognitive and sensory changes associated with age. And we do a simulation like this during employee onboarding. It is extremely powerful. But while we were dabbling in some of that, we actually released our first machine learning solutions. And one of the first was nursing facility level of care, which I hold near and dear and just spoke about. Another was our natural language processing pipeline. And so I'm very excited to completely embarrass Kathleen over here, who's one of our data scientists who works on the NLP pipeline. Thank you for being here, Kathleen. What we've done here, again, no secret sauce. It's actually a lot of open source packages to understand when members do call for support. What are they asking about? How are they asking about it? It turns out that the things you learn from it allow you to be a more empathetic and celebratory companion on the phone than if you call and start net new with each phone call. We've used our NLP pipeline to influence policy and product changes. We've used it to enact service recovery processes on individual members, etc. Then it got a little wild. We built a lot of models. Not every model is an individual use case, and I'll explain in a few slides why that has to be the case. I also want you to think about the change that occurred between 2022 and beyond. So think of 2022 as being a before and after. These are very unique differences. Everything to the left of 2022 was niche. It was data scientists building tools for people who were comfortable perturbing their workflow to let models help them do their job. They were specially trained. All of a sudden, after 2022, we started releasing this to almost every employee. So we had to go on a journey of education, of policy, of training and upskilling. I've really enjoyed this element of my role because I'm an educator, and teaching people about the technology is foundational to the way that we envision workforce in the future. We've also rolled this out to our members themselves. Who among us has been to a medical appointment and wondered, what is this doctor even talking about? You Google things on your phone afterwards. You maybe get a printout that is probably in a font that's too small or confusing language. We have a benefit called a bridge. A bridge is a little app on your phone, and as the conversation is happening between you and your clinician, this is not for the doctor. This is for you, the recipient of the healthcare services. It's listening, it's taking notes, and after the fact, you can understand what just happened. It brings it to your language. You can tap words to understand what they mean. So we're trying to make this technology as accessible as possible with our Insights Hub. This is how our user research team thinks about our members' journey with SCAN. These are the major phases. And I use this not only because I think it's exceptional that our data science team is embedded in the same department as our user research team, which says a lot, but because I think it shows some of the challenges that we have when working in the data science arena. Number one, you'll notice there aren't a ton of use cases in the pre-effective phase or the initiate coverage and care phase. Does anyone know why that might be? We don't have any data about the members at that time. We are data starved when our members first join us. We have some demographics, maybe we have some enrollment history, but there's very little upon which we can build a predictive model. So instead, you'll see that the first thing that comes in is that natural language pipeline. And that follows all the way through the member's journey with SCAN. We're always listening because we always want to do right by our members. Within this, you'll see we have a pretty heavy element of models in our ongoing care phase. That's because our charter here is to prevent the need for urgent care, or what we call avoidable events. We're trying to anticipate and either ease that experience for you because someone knows that this is happening. Not everything we predict can actually be prevented, but you can definitely make that experience more gentle for the member. Models that are worth highlighting here are obviously the avoidable events model, even if you can't actually avoid them. We have a model here around med adherence. So this is understanding that many of our members are on many medications, and there's a whole effort around this called deprescribing. Deprescribing says if you're on enough medications that you need a pill organizer and you need someone to check in on you regularly, that you have one medication that causes side effects and another medication that manages the side effects. Oh, and some of these medications are also highly risky to seniors. We want to find out who's at risk of not taking those medications as prescribed. There could also be access or cost issues that drive that. We also then move into a series of models called PATH. These are very exciting models for me because they aren't claims-based. These are models that run for our care delivery organization, and they do a few things. Number one, they do risk stratification. They do it on clinical data, so notes, for example, not just claims data. They also route our clinicians so that if, for example, we know we're having a visit in a particular region, within that same geo fence, we will get a list of other members who live nearby that we can actually go do a home visit with. So it does this path optimization, like you might see with your large logistics companies. Lastly, two models that are tremendously influenced by our natural language pipeline are our retention and satisfaction models. And the best way I can describe that impact, it'll be in the next slide. But the goal is, again, if you know someone is having a good time or a bad time, your conversations with them will dramatically vary. And those models are heavily fed by our natural language pipeline. So the Insights Hub that we've built, it's working. It's working very well. And it's working across a number of different spaces. So within satisfaction, we know whether someone will report that they are unhappy or happy. And as such, we have a two-factor campaign. We either call and do empathy, and we sort of grouse with you, and we talk about the things that have happened to you, and we try and build you back up and correct. Or we engage with you and we say, you know, thank you for being a valuable member. Please make sure to refer us to your friends. Can you provide feedback to us? Do you want to participate in some of our user research? So again, our data science and user research teams are truly entwined. With retention, we want to keep growing as a business. We want to keep diversifying. But in this industry, a lot of people will join a plan for a year and they're out. And we want to know why that happens. It turns out that a lot of this can be tied to service experiences, and we look for that. Our NLP pipeline has, as I mentioned, influenced policies. We learned through that pipeline that a number of members who enrolled via Medicare.gov didn't choose their primary care physician. Their first few months with the plan were painful and confusing. So we moved up their welcome calls to help them get attached to a medical group, and we were able to reduce first-year disenrollment among those members. Lastly, as I mentioned, the medication adherence model is extremely powerful, and by migrating it from a rules-based system, much like our nursing facility level of care, to a simple light gradient boosting model, we were able to add another 1 member in 12 who we knew weren't going to take their medications properly. All right, I love this slide because there's no free lunch. None of this came without hard work, missteps, painful learning opportunities. So let's talk about those. Speaking back to Mike's buzzwords slide, I actually love taxonomies in healthcare. I'm super geeky about this. I love a good CPT, HCPCS, CVX, LOINC, ARC-CCS, Alex Hauser weights, the Charlson comorbidities, CDC race and ethnicity codes. I could keep going, right? There's a lot of them, and all of this data, it's not really ours. It's data that needs to be loaded as Parquet files into Delta tables. We had to set up pipelines to do that because a lot of these definitions, a lot of these groupers are fundamental to how we define our features. So we had to create these pipelines to put these taxonomies in. But here's what I love about these taxonomies. They change all the time. They're not constant. They're changing at least annually. If you're the FDA, those drug lists change daily. So now try and build a stable machine learning model when the NDC code for a particular medication is likely to be gone next week. We have to then think about the implications to our feature store. And we have to think about feature versioning. Second is a unique challenge to the payer space, which is claims runout. Claims runout is akin to data leakage. In our space, we only see events when a bill has been rendered, a claim. This is on average for an outpatient professional claim, 21 days. So we don't know that the event has happened until we get that claim 21 days later. How do you train a model when the data that is available at time of scoring is not reflective of what has already occurred in the real world? We built out claims runout modeling into the way that we train certain models and certain features. Some data is available in real time. I love healthcare. Next up is segments and expansion markets. So as we move into these new markets, we face the problem that I showed you in our journey slide. We simply don't have data for training. We also create new products in the market each year. That also hinders our ability to have great training data. We've started to run parity tests to ensure that the models that we create either can extend to a new market, can be modified to a new market, or we need to forego them altogether. The behaviors of members on specific products are so different that we oftentimes have to split out a separate model for them. That's not a problem. We just have to be aware of that. Kathleen will tell you we have waged a real war on the note templates in our NLP pipeline. And one thing to also consider is when you work for a contact center, you can't use the same sentiment analyses that typically come out of box with any NLP libraries. Those were made for social media. They were generally trained on social media. They were not trained on a confused member calling because they got a letter in the mail that they don't understand. So we've had to tweak our pipeline a little bit to better accept it and to, very frankly, accept that the median sentiment is rather negative. So how do you call out something that's interesting? Lastly, COVID-19 was a very interesting few years for the topics of health equity. It foundationally reminded us that healthcare is biased. It is biased not only in the training data that we have, which reflects very much about access to care and about overall ability to obtain preventative care. It also told us that the models themselves can introduce more bias. It told us that the humans who interpret the models and take action on those models can also perform a resource allocation bias. Oh, this model has overstated this person's risk. It's fine. So we have had a long-standing health equity framework for the models that we build to ensure that we are not perpetuating any of these issues in our work. This is actually part of our standard machine learning development lifecycle. So we've achieved a lot. And I think about where we want to go in the next 2 to 3 years. So number one, I think in the buzzword bingo, Unity Catalog has got to be the free space. So this year, we actually, if you look back at some of those fidget spinner era work, we were established enough on Databricks that we had to move off of the Hive Metastore and onto Unity Catalog. That was a tremendous multi-team undertaking, and it's been so worth it. So now that we've done that, we've reintegrated with MLflow, the feature store, et cetera. We continue the integration there. So if I can, for a second, call back to some other things that we've done along the way. We did integrate with the Azure DevOps Git so that we could establish CI/CD as well. So we've continued to invest in the engineering rigor because, as was mentioned earlier, we don't want to think of, thank you, Cecelia, models as objects. They are truly living beings. So from here, we are very excited because we are days or weeks away from our first Delta sharing implementation. And this is a big deal. Most people tend to think of the relationship between the payer and the provider as being fraught. They are constantly sniping at each other. Someone wants to pay something, someone wants this denied. At the end of the day, we have one person that we both care about, and that is our members. And so we found another organization that is a provider organization, and we've decided that there's a file that we normally get on a rather lagged basis. But they have exposed a table to us so that we can view it in real time. And we're actually very excited about this because it ties into work we're doing on inflection points. When significant life events happen, new cancer diagnosis, hip fracture, first fall, etc., when those events happen, we'll be able to see that and we'll be able to offer that safety net because we won't be calling 2-3 months later. We'll be calling within the week that it occurs. And that's possible through Delta sharing. Obviously, our journey with NLP has been a learning opportunity, and therefore we are excited to take that even further, to understand in bulk what has happened to our members, to identify trends, to summarize call history. We are very excited about DBRX and using that to also assign topic labels to some of our unsupervised models the LDA work that we do there will benefit greatly. And lastly, we do move a tremendous amount of data today. We just bulk move data. We are excited to move into model serving as well to sort of round out this year. Thank you for this opportunity.
Corinne, thank you. Really thought that was a great presentation. So quick round of applause for all of our presenters today. Corinne, Cecelia, Sonder, Ed, Pushpendra. I think we had quite a lot of great insights across the spectrum of healthcare and life sciences. Now, I just want to quickly celebrate the ecosystem as well. I think it's really important to know it's not just our organization data that's so critical to leverage for these insights, but it's also the data inside of our ecosystem. So first of all, I wanted to congratulate Definitive Healthcare, one of our healthcare and life sciences partners of the year. They're helping deliver data intelligence and helping to reduce the time to insight for a lot of our organizations. They're delivering this data through Delta sharing, much like Corinne was just mentioning how excited SCAN is to be able to share that data. Definitive Healthcare is helping share things that help enable things like market analysis, customer acquisition, as well as market segmentation. So take a look at them out on the Databricks marketplace, or if you want to talk to them live, they're actually here this week, and I'll be helping moderate the session on Thursday with Casey Eastlack. She's the Assistant Vice President for Professional Services at Definitive Healthcare. We'll also have another amazing organization, Kythera Labs. Jeff McDonald, the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Kythera, will also be talking about the role of transforming our industry, leveraging real-world data, and some of the lessons that they've learned along the way. I'd also like to congratulate John Snow Labs. They've won Growth Data Partner of the Year, and Mike alluded to them a little bit earlier. They're pioneering integration of AI models into the Databricks marketplace, over 60 today available with the click of a button. They're contributing to open source enhancements around ML flow. They're also helping deliver solution accelerators that are available for you all today out on our solution accelerator library, including things like a medical chatbot. Take a look at them on the Databricks marketplace. And then lastly, I'd like to congratulate Slalom as one of our partners of the year. So they've been named the Databricks Healthcare and Life Sciences Partner of the Year, not once, but twice. So congratulations to you all. They've developed a number of solutions, including the digital patient 360. It's being implemented at organizations like Biogen, as well as the AI Lakehouse Accelerator, and that's being implemented at CRISP, as well as some regional health systems. So today, they're going to be down on the expo hall floor. They're at booth 88. Highly encourage you all to take a look at them. They're also creating an AI value calculator to help predict the return on investment of potential AI use cases so that you all can be more prepared to make the right technology investment decisions. So before we formally conclude here, Mike, I'm going to welcome you back on stage for any final thoughts here, and hop on up.
Thanks, Adam. So I realized when, in my excitement of playing the acronym alphabet soup game, I messed up my P's and A's on HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Hopefully we got that right. But we had some other fun acronyms in the last presentation. S&P, did anyone catch that and know what that is? Special Needs Plan. All right. For the Medicare folks. So we can continue playing this game. Head downstairs. So we are currently in the South building. So we're going to go over to Moscone North. So you're basically going to take the escalator all the way down to essentially the basement level. There's a walkway under the street. And there's the expo hall. If you haven't been over there yet, there's an industry solutions hub. So we'll be hanging out there for the next hour or so and encourage you to, network and learn a little more. And I'll just leave you with some of my thoughts. I'm just impressed by the territory we covered today. We went from talking about generative data for commercial analytics to provider workflows, to vaccine manufacturing, to member experience. So we really touched on every corner of the healthcare ecosystem. Hopefully something resonated with you and you walked away with some new insights. So thank you again to all our speakers, and we'll see you on the other side of Moscone.